here we have two examples of different runners, and we're going to look at different types of foot structure and how that can cause too much pronation, not enough pronation, or just right. And we can actually show this, the whole spectrum with these two runners. So what I like to do is just take this guy on the left and have him come through, and we're going to see a couple things as he starts to run based on his foot position. He is going to be not supinating enough, and we would guess that he has high rigid arches. So as he comes in contact with the ground, let's actually jump over to the other side. Let's show you what's supposed to happen. So as we come in contact with the ground, our foot should turn in. This is that supinated position we talked about. It allows the foot to be rigid because you have about 3 times your body weight coming up to hit at the ground. So you want a nice rigid foot. We don't want to be dislocating bones. We don't want a flexible foot. That landing on the outside border causes us to pronate to the ground, and that's where we shock absorb. That's how our foot comes through the cycle, hits, and spins into the earth. And we can see that spinning in as that angle changes. If we get too much bowing at the ankle, we say we overpronate, which we'll see on his other side. But this is a nice example of a neutral foot that comes down, pronates to the ground, and comes back out. So we go from a rigid to a flexible position. We go from supinated to pronated, and then as we come to push off, we have muscles on the inside portion of our leg that pull ourselves up. Happens at the knee and happens at the hip as well, and that brings us back to a supinated position where we're going to be pushing off through the first and second toe, and that gives us a rigid foot to push off. So real quick, we go from supinated to pronated to supinated. We go from rigid to flexible to rigid again. And we'd like to have a rigid foot for push off, obviously, so that we can distribute all that force into the ground and move ourselves down the road. But what happens when we don't have that flexibility is we'll land on the outside border of our foot and we will literally just stay there. This video is a little bit blurry as it was an online entry, but what you're going to see here is there's not much pronation at the ankle. We could almost draw a line pretty much all the way through that intersects this whole thing, and there's no pronating aspect to it. So he's not able to spin into the earth and spin out of the earth. He lands and he just stays all on the outside border of his foot. And that's probably, for most people, what we see in the clinic is due to anatomy. So our anatomy doesn't allow us to pronate. So what we generally try to do is we try to build up the inside portion of the shoe a little bit so his foot can reach and touch down without having a huge dead space. If we look at a high arch from the side, you're going to see something like this. And here would be the big toe, top of the foot. And there's the back of the ankle. What we want to do with a high arch is we want to build that dead space up so that the arch has something to reach for instead of having just all this dead space where it can't touch the ground. And that's a beautiful foot drawing, I know. What happens when we overpronate? Okay, so here's an example of a guy who has obviously pretty similar anatomy on both sides, but he doesn't have the foot strength or the range of motion on his right side. So we're going to see that he sets himself up the same way. We can actually see that he toes out a little bit, and that's going to be part of the problem from tightness, but he's going to land on the outside border regardless. So he's going to come in supinated, but then he's not going to control himself very well, and you can see that unlocking of the ankle and the pronating phase. So he has more bowing on this inside part of the ankle. He's not controlling very well from his foot and ankle, and he's toeing out. That toeing out is driving him further inwards. So the mechanics are causing him to overpronate on his right side when we compare him to the left. Just take note of how up and down this foot is, because we're going to see something very different on the other side. So he goes from supinated to rigid to pronated and flexible, and he's going to lose, because he overpronates, he's going to lose his ability to get back to supination at push off, and you're going to see even when he's here, his heel is elevated, he's still pronated. And then he tries to get it at the last second, and he doesn't get a solid push off. You can see how the foot just kind of lifts up off the ground instead of pushing into the ground. And now watch how his foot comes off. And now you can see nothing is aligned here. His foot axis is here, and that's all because he overpronated. We saw him in the clinic, had hip tightness up top, and that's what's limiting his ability. So someone like this on the right side, he has the anatomy on both sides, but the foot anatomy rather, but because of tightness, because of restriction, because of foot and ankle weakness, he can't control at the foot and ankle. So we need to address these issues. You can't just say I'm going to throw a supportive shoe on both sides because they're not even. We address these through mechanics, through our RunSmart online stuff, the boot camps, the yoga, but it just goes to show you that pronation is not a bad thing. It's just when it gets to the point where either we overpronate because of our anatomy and we don't get a solid push off, and you can see that right foot again not pushing off solid, or we don't pronate at all. And this is what's happening with this guy. He lands and his foot just stays supinated the whole time, and then that doesn't allow him to spin into the earth to distribute forces as he runs, which is roughly 3 times his body weight. Are you looking to become a stronger, faster, and more well-rounded runner? Then jump on over to RunSmartOnline.com and take our 10-day free challenge. Try our run-specific, time-saving, and easy-access videos that let you get stronger from anywhere, whether it be at work, home, or on the road.